Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Eric Hellberg, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience, man. I am super excited to have you here. I know we had a little bit of a challenge with our scheduling and all that kind of thing, but I'm glad we made this thing happen, man. Thank you so much.
You and me both, Mike. I'm trying to figure out, I think we both met via our individual podcasting journey. I'm glad it overlapped, and we've kind of stayed in touch along the way, and here we are.
We've had absolutely no fun, by the way, just getting to know each other over the phone. So I know we're going to have a good time. So what we do, and as we talked about before we hit record, is we get people's life stories. And the reason for it is we know everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And we know that getting your life story on tape is actually going to inspire and motivate people that connect with you on how, depending upon what the situation is. So we're super excited to do that. So let's do this if you're okay with it. Let's start with where you were born.
Where I was born. I was born in Lufkin, Texas. So for students of geography, that would be kind of mid-central East Texas.
Gotcha.
And my parents were going to SFA college at the time, both of them. And I kind of derailed those collegiate plans. And so I came along, and we lived in an adjacent town close to where I was born for approximately a year. And I guess the reality of the situation hit. Neither one of them completed school at that time, and we moved to Houston. And so really I grew up both in incorporated massive city Houston, but I was so young. And then we moved out, as I can remember, and I got older, into unincorporated Houston that was kind of in between that and an adjacent town that's gigantic now, like everything's grown. But really kind of a city when really small, and then it's city now, but it was rural when it was being developed. I mean, when we moved to that subdivision, I was the sixth house in that subdivision around woods and crops and lakes, and they built this thing out, so you wouldn't recognize it now. But plenty of places to run and gun as a kid.
So was that the Woodlands?
No, I don't think the Woodlands at that time, that wasn't even on the map, man. Off 45 up there north Houston. And that's not even North Houston now. I mean, but the Woodlands is that's highfalutin living, and big companies there, lots of fancy, nice places. But no, we were out toward Katy, which would have been west. Picture going out towards San Antonio.
Yeah, Katy's grown a lot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is when it was really beginning. I mean, you have to realize, I think Houston hit 1 million people for the first time in 1970.
Wow.
And so we probably moved out to where I'm talking about in 76.
Yeah.
And so we were in that boom. In fact, the high school I went to, when we started it, 9th, 10th. Yeah, we only had 9th and 10th grades. We added a successive grade each year, and we were the first graduating class of that high school as they were anticipating growth and had to build these things out.
Wow, that's crazy. So what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
For a young man, and hey, man, I wish that for all kids now. I mean, you look at the old days. I mean, I'm 53. You may be older than me, Mike. Hell, I don't know.
I'm
But
57.
okay, well, we're right in that ballpark. I mean, if you looked at some of those old pictures, it may be me and two of my buddies on, I mean, when I got a mongoose bicycle, or they had a Huffy that looked like a motorcycle. When I got one of those, I mean, I thought I was king shit, man.
Yeah, that was the deal, man. That was the deal right there.
So that first bike, when I graduated and got that one with those shocks and that fuel tank, and I tore that one to heck, then I graduated to a mongoose. But if you look at pics with a couple of buddies, that was really cool. Now you got guys that can't spread their legs and move, and everything is, unless you deliberately move out to the country, which we did with our kids.
Yeah.
You missed out on a hellified experience. I had unlimited places to run, woods, streams to ford. Of course, where the subdivision was growing, I got into a lot of mischief too. So, I mean, since I had that wood line, we'd take sweet gum balls off sweet gum trees. We'd hide behind a neighbor's shrubs and pelt these cars coming down, and we'd just run to the woods. And we had a trail that went back to the new street they had built. And, it was just, that's my fondest memories, is being able to leave your house when you got home from school and come back whenever I guess you needed to eat.
Being a kid.
And being a kid. And
in
I
the
think
literal sense, yeah. So when you were in high school, when you were in high school, did you play sports?
You know what? I really didn't. And it's kind of crazy. I may have tried football, Mike, in 10th grade just for a little bit. And everyone wanted me to play. Well, here, I'm going to back up and I'm going to help you, because we're building stories.
Right.
So you got to realize that my dad died right before I turned 8. And that dude was like, and I'm going to remember this high school part. And he was my hero because he was a total badass.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm saying that in a good way, and I'm saying it in a bad way, because under the auspices of selling, remember in the 70s, and you're a real estate guy, so you know about this stuff. Remember when Datsuns were introduced to America, the compact Datsuns? Mm-hmm. Then you had like the 240, 60, 280Zs, all that stuff.
Yep, I remember those.
Well, that was kind of like his cover job, and he sold a ton of cars. But what he was really doing was dealing drugs, and he was a sports bookie. So I used to spend my evenings with him going to every conceivable sporting event imaginable. My mom wasn't with us. And so I got to meet a lot of interesting dudes, got to see him in action. And, he was as smooth as Telly Savalas, but he did have a full head of hair. And but if you crossed him, I don't know at what level he was at or what, but I mean, I saw him beat down many a men. And
wow.
If you've listened to any of my shows, I told you it was terrifying, but it was also electrifying.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like that dude.
Sure.
And but at the same time, I wanted to have a something, maybe that was the good Lord gave me more of a genteel spirit, and I didn't want to be in trouble. And that's the only thing that really kept me, because once he passed, my mom, who was still very young, my dad died right before he turned 30. She had like this crazed preoccupation with finding a new mate, a new spouse. Therefore, it was just me. I was flying solo, man. I mean, sometimes I got to go out with some of these boyfriends, and one of them was really good to me because he was kind of like a rich oil man. And but she kind of had this predisposition. You had to be something like that, a doctor or a lawyer. And so I pretty much raised myself, and I ended up leaving home at 17. Now, that takes us right into, what were you saying? Oh, so sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played the smallest, like, little league sports up until like junior high.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, by the time high school kicked in, I was at such a loss, Mike. I had no idea where I belonged. I knew I was athletic because they had this one guy kind of took an interest in me. His name was Craig DeSurf. He was Mr. Texas.
Okay.
Bodybuilder. And his best friend was Lee Labrada. So those lean body shakes you see at every store. Lee Labrada finished third in the Mr. Olympia competition 3 years in a row, and his brother-in-law was Samir Bannout, who had won the Olympia in '82.
Right.
So California, bodybuilding's crazy. Those dudes were there. I used to sit on those dudes' backs or on their leg press machine when they were working out when I was 15. So I had all that, was really active, but I just couldn't. Either it was insecurity, thought I would fail. I don't know. But interestingly, so no, I didn't play in high school, but I'll tell you what I did do. When I left home at 17, I had no idea what to do with my life. I thought you just go to college and get rich. So I go to University of Texas. I mean, that's like going to UCLA or SoCal out in your neck of the woods, and walked on the team without playing any organized football, made the team, was in the backfield as a tailback and halfback with Darren Norris from Oceanside, California, All-American.
Darren and I went to school together. Yeah.
Well, then there you go. And Eric Metcalf, who finished second in the Heisman Trophy. The only thing was, with no guidance and no direction, I was figuring out football pretty quick, but I didn't know how to make good grades. So I failed out. And that kind of led to a circuitous route to me going into the Army.
Wow. So basically you go to UT. So you're a Longhorn for how long?
Semester.
A semester. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
they let me in under probationary status, Mike, because I mean, I didn't excel in school and in high school. I did just what I needed to get by.
Yeah. I got you. So you basically, and you use your terms, you flunk out, right? And so then how does the Army thing happen?
How the Army thing happens. Well, then imagine this. I flunk out. I'm not sure. I really had no relationship with my mom by then. I rolled out. I mean, I hardly ever saw her growing up. Sometimes she'd come home in the evenings. She had her section of the house. I'm not saying I was deprived in any way when it came to money or nice clothes. I just didn't have a parental figure. So she'd go to her section. So I really had nowhere to go. So I went to my grandparents and talked to them, and I was a lot closer to them. That was really the undergirdment of stability, was her parents. So right after my father had passed, I would go to where they lived in another city and spend those summers. Those were indispensable to me because my grandfather was pretty big in church. He had a real responsible job at one of the big refineries. A lot of people knew him. And so it moved from one venue to another whereby I had carte blanche to run around and be a kid. And then I also knew I had some people that cared about me and some safety. Without that, no telling. So imagine this. I fell out of UT and I come back to where my grandparents live, which is Port Arthur. So Beaumont, Texas, Port Arthur area. And I start selling these. I know you've heard of them, Cutco knives.
Yep, absolutely. We've had some people on that sold Cutco knives.
Well, I'll tell you what, back when I was selling them, there was this lady, man, how smart was she? She was like 54 at that time. Her name was Margaret Bola out of San Diego. She was the #1 sales rep for Vector Marketing Corporation, or Cutco, during the time when I was selling them. So I started off with my grandparents' contacts, started selling the bejeebers out of knives, became a field sales manager, which is their highest level for independent salespeople. Then they gave me a chance to open my own office. So if you know where College Station is?
Yeah.
Where Texas A&M
is,
So imagine Longhorns, Aggies. So Vector Marketing Corporation says, Eric, you can open up a second office, I believe, in Oklahoma City, Fort Smith, Arkansas, or Bryan, College Station, Texas. So I opened up the first Vector Marketing Corporation office in Bryan, College Station, Texas.
Wow.
And started training sales reps and selling knives as an organization then. and had about at that time maybe 48 consistent ones, 48, 50 guys just like me that had been selling them individually. So did well at that. And I mean, great money. I think I was 19. And but in my mind, and there's guys that are millionaires selling those knives. I'm still friends with who was my branch manager when I was a sales rep. And we just talked last week. He's in California. But that didn't have any pizzazz for me, Mike.
Yeah.
That's not, to me, I wanted to, I'm sure for my upbringing, I wanted to be important.
Yeah.
And I'll just flat out say it. I mean, that's a fleshly answer. Lord willing, I've evolved. But at that time, I wanted to be important. I didn't want to be known as knives. I mean, could it have been something great? Yeah, for me, it was.
Yeah.
So I tell Vector Marketing Corporation, hey, that's cool. Enjoyed it. Here's the office. Here's the infrastructure. Get someone in here, take it. I'm going to try college. So now I try college at Texas A&M.
So you go back to college. Okay.
Yep. For about another semester. Yeah, about another semester. And I'm like, I have no idea what I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm just doing this because I thought this is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
I heard my grandparents always say, Eric, go to college. Not my mom, but my grandparents, Eric, go to college. Eric, go to college. So I didn't want to be a burden on anyone. And so I roll over to a recruiter, and Uncle Sam was happy to take me in. And I'm sure he would be very happy with the state of the world right now to take in a lot more people. But as I'm the exact same fighting weight as I was in the Army, we know 70% of the military right now is obese.
Oh, wow.
I'm not talking our special operations, dude. We just lost 2 West Coast SEALs last week, if you followed the news.
Yeah, I
but
do.
The military in general, and as crazy as the world is right now, Mike, we're getting infringed where we would have to have what we call higher intensity conflict, meaning set piece army style conflict. Think Russia, Ukraine. We can't win that anywhere in the world. The only place we can win is when you use the JSOC model, Special Operations Forces model, small guys. And if you notice, when we use those models, we still choose our enemies very, very carefully.
Yeah.
So I was just with a dude. I was with a dude from Africa, and we're digressing, but we'll jump right back to 2 days ago. And we were talking about what happened in Rwanda.
Yeah.
Right? With the Hutus and the Tutsis. That's 3 million people slaughtered via machete and everything else. And
unbelievable.
And that was in the mid 90s. That's while I was in. That's under, at that time, I went in under Bush one. Then Clinton, where was our benevolence during that time?
Yeah.
There was no benevolence, because in order to achieve that benevolence would have taken an unbelievable effort like Vietnam, and we wouldn't have won it. Yeah. We haven't been anywhere since World War II where we have attempted to go into another country, and it wouldn't work here either. That's why no one comes here. There's not another country in the world that we can go into and take that country over. And why in the world would you go interrupt another form of belief or government and think that you can put this Jeffersonian democracy into that place when they haven't lived like that at all?
Yeah. And back then they were hung up on the peace dividend, right? Because the Cold War was over, and, you know, the wall had come down, and that was a completely different time, man. Completely different initiative, and different people at the helm too, you know. So
different people at the helm, different vigor in the US, a different time. And it goes right back to the 3 boys on the bicycle in the past picture. Whereas you look at 3 boys, even if they're in sports now, Mike, you can take a picture of them. They're on their game system in their room or sitting here. Our son doesn't have a phone. He's 14, but all his boys on his baseball team, they all have their own phones.
Oh yeah.
So, and they have their own group chat with our coach. he's got to text me in order to get through to Chris John. Chris John's got to ask for permission to use my phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, so went into the Army, and we can go from there. Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to the Army. What do you do in the Army?
I was a light infantry mortarman. So, but I kind of had a non-circuitous route. And the only way anyone who would understand this would be someone who's done a few different things. And there's a lot of opportunity for it because the military's working all around the world at any given time.
Right.
And it didn't just, there's a lot of logistical stuff. There's a lot of people that go around in these clothes. And I'm not talking all this contracting crap that you hear about now. It's very different. And I don't want to get us too far off the field. But long story short, right there in basic training, after I completed that, and I had I believe they were called an RGV-4 contract, which was an airborne ranger contract. As soon as I finished basic training, infantry training, one station unit training, my company commander pulled me, and he was an old ring knocker. He's from West Point. Pulled me and said, "I'd like you to go to OCS."
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.